Hi, welcome to Conflict Story, where we bring you the best and most fascinating stories just for you. Let's dive right into one of those stories. It begins like this.
6 months ago, a surreal incident unfolded in an affluent suburb of Seattle. Julian, a 28-year-old financial analyst, had recently fulfilled a lifelong dream of purchasing a stunning 2023 Porsche 911 Carrera in Arctic silver. For Julian, the car symbolized years of tireless effort, budgeting, and side hustles. However, his excitement soon turned into a nightmarish ordeal when Karen, the neighbor from hell, moved in next door. Karen, a woman in her mid-50s with a fiery temper and an air of entitlement, began showing an unusual interest in Julian's car. At first, her comments seemed benign. "That's such a lovely car," she'd say, adding, "My husband never lets me splurge on things I deserve." Julian's polite nods were soon replaced by discomfort as Karen's obsession grew more intrusive. She often lingered around his driveway, snapping pictures of the Porsche and even pressing her face against its windows to peek inside. One Saturday morning, while Julian was meticulously waxing his car, Karen strolled over uninvited. "You know," she said, smirking, "a car like this is wasted on someone like you. People like me with social responsibilities could truly showcase its beauty." Stunned by her audacity, Julian tried to deflect. "I bought this car because it's my passion," he replied firmly. Karen's response was chilling. "Passion is irrelevant. Status is what matters, and you're squandering it." In the following weeks, Karen's antics escalated. Julian installed security cameras after catching her attempting to open the car doors multiple times. One day, he found her clutching the door handle, muttering about how, "This car deserves better." Despite her blatant trespasses, she brushed off his confrontations with a smug, "You're overreacting." The situation boiled over early one Thursday morning. Julian awoke to the unmistakable roar of his Porsche engine. Racing to the window, he was horrified to see Karen reversing his car out of the driveway. Throwing on his coat, he dashed outside, shouting, "What the hell are you doing?" Karen's response was jaw-dropping. "I'm taking what should have been mine. I found your spare key in your garage. You're welcome." She then sped off, leaving Julian in stunned disbelief. Frantically, Julian called 911. The dispatcher assured him that officers were on their way. In the meantime, Julian accessed his security camera footage, which had captured Karen's brazen theft in full. As he paced his driveway, a patrol car arrived. Julian shared the footage and provided detailed information about Karen, including her address and the stolen car's license plate. Minutes later, police located the Porsche parked outside a nearby cafe. Karen, nonchalantly sipping her latte, was arrested on the spot. Astonishingly, she claimed that Julian had gifted her the car. "He said I deserved it," she declared to the officers. At the police station, the surreal twist kept coming. Investigators uncovered forged documents in Karen's possession, including fake purchase papers for the Porsche. She'd also pilfered Julian's mail, obtaining sensitive financial details to aid her scheme. Detectives informed Julian that Karen had even attempted to access his bank accounts, adding identity theft to her growing list of charges. During questioning, Karen's delusions reached new heights. "I drive better than him," she insisted. "This car was wasted on someone who doesn't appreciate luxury." Her entitled demeanor enraged everyone involved in the case. Julian's security footage, alongside his meticulous documentation of ownership, solidified the case against Karen. The district attorney's office charged her with grand theft auto, identity theft, and forgery. As she awaited trial, Karen was released on bail with strict conditions, including staying away from Julian. But Karen couldn't resist escalating the drama. 3 nights later, Julian's cameras caught her attempting to sneak into his garage, armed with lock-picking tools and spray paint. Police swiftly arrested her again, this time adding burglary in violation of a court order to her rap sheet. The next morning, as Julian sat sipping coffee, his phone buzzed with an update. Karen was now facing additional felony charges. Her erratic actions had turned a single car theft into a full-blown criminal saga. The story was far from over, but Julian felt a glimmer of hope as justice began to unfold. Julian's sense of relief was short-lived as Karen's trial drew near. The local media picked up on the bizarre story, dubbing her Seattle's most entitled neighbor. Reporters camped outside the courthouse on the day of the preliminary hearing, eager to catch a glimpse of the infamous Karen. Inside the courtroom, Karen's behavior was as outrageous as ever. She arrived in an outfit better suited for a gala, strutting in as though she were the star of the show. When her attorney attempted to present a defense based on misunderstanding, Karen interrupted, declaring, "I have every right to that car. He doesn't even belong to a country club." The judge's gavel slammed down, silencing her mid-rant. The prosecution wasted no time presenting its case. Security footage showed Karen stealing the spare key from Julian's garage and later driving off with the Porsche. They also highlighted her forged documents and attempts to access Julian's financial accounts. Each piece of evidence painted a clear picture of premeditation and entitlement. Julian took the stand, recounting the bizarre series of events. He described Karen's escalating behavior and the toll it had taken on his peace of mind. The courtroom listened intently as he detailed her attempts to forge ownership of not just his car, but even his identity. Karen's defense team tried to downplay her actions, claiming she suffered from undue stress and had been misguided by poor judgment. But Karen's own testimony obliterated any sympathy the jury might have felt. Taking the stand, she launched into a tirade about how Julian's lack of appreciation for luxury made him unworthy of the Porsche. "I was doing him a favor," she declared. "He's just a number cruncher. That car deserves someone who knows its true value." Her comments were met with audible gasps and whispers in the courtroom. Even her lawyer looked exasperated, muttering under his breath as she continued digging herself deeper. Outside the courthouse, the media frenzy intensified. Neighbors, intrigued by the spectacle, shared stories about Karen's past antics. Rumors swirled about her previous brushes with the law in other states. Each tale painted a picture of a woman whose sense of entitlement knew no bounds. Back at home, Julian found it hard to relax despite Karen being under strict house arrest. The added security measures, cameras, motion-activated lights, and a reinforced garage helped, but he couldn't shake the unease. His evenings were now spent reviewing footage and double-checking locks, a routine he never imagined adopting. The trial's climax came 2 weeks later. The prosecution's final arguments focused on Karen's pattern of entitlement-driven crimes. They presented additional evidence of her previous attempts to claim luxury cars in other states, demonstrating a clear and repeated behavior. The jury deliberated for less than 3 hours. When the foreman read the verdict, guilty on all counts, Karen's composed facade crumbled. She screamed, "This isn't fair. I deserve better than this." As officers restrained her, the judge, unimpressed, ordered her immediate remand and set a sentencing date. Julian felt a wave of relief wash over him. Justice had prevailed, and Karen's reign of terror was finally over. But his ordeal wasn't completely behind him. The sentencing hearing promised to bring more drama, and Julian was prepared to see it through to the end. Karen's sentencing hearing brought the saga to an explosive climax. Julian arrived at the courthouse flanked by supporters, including neighbors who had also endured Karen's antics. The gallery buzzed with anticipation, and reporters filled the aisles, eager to capture the final chapter of this bizarre story. Karen entered the courtroom under heavy guard. Gone was the overconfident swagger she displayed during the trial. Her defiant energy had been replaced with a scowl. As she sat at the defendant's table, she whispered heatedly to her attorney, who looked increasingly resigned. The prosecution began by recapping Karen's actions: grand theft auto, identity theft, forgery, and violating court orders. They emphasized her lack of remorse and the sheer audacity of her crimes. "This is a person who systematically targeted her victim and acted with entitlement, delusion, and malice," the prosecutor stated. "She has shown no indication that she understands the severity of her actions." Julian was called to deliver his victim impact statement. Standing before the court, he spoke calmly but firmly. "This has been one of the most stressful experiences of my life," he said. "Karen not only violated my property, but also my sense of safety and peace. Her actions were not just theft, they were a direct attack on the life I worked hard to build." He described the sleepless nights, the financial burden of security upgrades, and the constant vigilance required to feel safe. "No one should have to live in fear of their neighbor," he concluded. "I urge the court to consider the full impact of her actions when determining her sentence." Karen's attorney attempted a final plea for leniency, arguing that her actions stemmed from emotional instability and claiming that she'd faced undue stress from personal and financial troubles. But when Karen herself spoke, she undid any goodwill her lawyer had managed to muster. "This whole thing is ridiculous," she began, her voice dripping with disdain. "I don't see why everyone's making such a big deal out of this. That car was wasted on him. I was doing society a favor by taking it. And as for the identity stuff, I was just trying to fix his boring life. He should be thanking me." Gasps filled the courtroom. Even the judge's normally stoic expression betrayed a flicker of disbelief. Karen's outburst made it clear she had learned nothing from the ordeal. When it was time for the judge to deliver the sentence, the room fell silent. "Mrs. Karen," he began, "your actions show a profound lack of respect for the law and the rights of others. You have demonstrated not only a pattern of entitlement, but also a complete absence of remorse." He paused, glancing at his notes. "This court finds it necessary to impose a sentence that reflects the severity of your crimes and serves as a deterrent to similar behavior." Karen was sentenced to 8 years in state prison, followed by 5 years of probation. She was also ordered to pay $60,000 in restitution to Julian, covering his legal fees, security upgrades, and emotional distress. Furthermore, she was barred from contacting Julian or coming within 1,000 feet of his property for life. As the sentence was read, Karen erupted in fury. "This is a joke," she screamed. "You can't do this to me. I'm the victim here." Her protests were ignored as officers escorted her out of the courtroom in handcuffs. Outside, Julian faced a swarm of reporters. He spoke briefly, expressing gratitude for the justice system and the support of his community. "I'm relieved this chapter is over," he said. "Now I can finally focus on moving forward." The weeks that followed brought a sense of closure. Karen's house was sold at auction, and a young family moved in, bringing new life to the neighborhood. Julian's sense of security gradually returned, though he remained cautious, keeping his security measures in place. News of Karen's sentencing made headlines, sparking debates about entitlement and personal responsibility. Julian was invited to share his story at several events, including a seminar on vehicle security. Through it all, he remained humble, viewing his experience as a cautionary tale rather than a badge of honor. In quieter moments, Julian often reflected on the ordeal. The Porsche, once a symbol of his hard-earned success, had become a reminder of resilience and the importance of standing up for what's right. While the events with Karen had tested his patience and fortitude, they also strengthened his resolve. Life returned to normal, but Julian knew he'd never forget the neighbor who thought she could take it all away. In the months following Karen's sentencing, the neighborhood gradually returned to a sense of normalcy. Julian felt a weight lift from his shoulders as life settled back into a peaceful rhythm. However, the experience left lasting lessons that he would carry with him for years to come. Julian decided to use his ordeal as an opportunity to advocate for better community awareness. Teaming up with local law enforcement and a nearby car dealership, he helped organize a workshop on personal security and vehicle protection. "It's not just about having the latest gadgets," he told attendees. "It's about staying vigilant and trusting your instincts." The workshop was a resounding success, drawing dozens of residents eager to learn how to better protect their homes and belongings. Julian's story served as a cautionary tale, reminding everyone that entitlement and audacity could sometimes escalate into dangerous situations. Meanwhile, Karen's name became synonymous with outrageous entitlement. Her case made its way into national headlines, with journalists dissecting every detail of her bizarre behavior. True crime podcasts and YouTube channels dedicated entire episodes to her trial, dubbing her the neighbor from hell. While Julian preferred to stay out of the limelight, he occasionally caught snippets of these stories, shaking his head at how surreal the ordeal had been. Back at home, Julian's life began to flourish again. The young family that moved into Karen's former house turned out to be wonderful neighbors. They often invited Julian over for barbecues, and their children adored his Porsche, which he allowed them to admire from a safe distance. One sunny afternoon, as Julian washed the car that had become a symbol of his resilience, he reflected on the absurdity of it all. The Porsche, once marred by Karen's antics, now stood as a testament to his hard work and the support of a community that rallied behind him. It wasn't just a car, it was a reminder that perseverance and justice could prevail, even in the face of outrageous adversity. Karen's story didn't end quietly. From behind bars, she reportedly continued to write complaints, alleging mistreatment and claiming that she had been unfairly judged. Her letters to the press were laced with the same delusional entitlement that had led to her downfall. "They don't understand my value," one letter read. "I was meant for better things." Most media outlets dismissed her as a curiosity, a cautionary figure rather than a credible voice. For Julian, the chapter was finally closed. He invested in his career, cultivated new hobbies, and even started dating again. The ordeal with Karen taught him the importance of protecting what he'd worked so hard to achieve, but it also reminded him of the value of community and resilience in the face of unexpected challenges. One evening, as he parked the Porsche in his driveway, he noticed the sunset casting a golden glow over the neighborhood. For the first time in months, he felt completely at ease. The house next door, once the source of so much turmoil, now echoed with the laughter of children and the warmth of family life. It was a fitting contrast to the chaos Karen had left behind. Life had moved on, and so had Julian. But every so often, as he polished the car's gleaming surface, he'd chuckle at the memory of Karen's absurd declaration, "I drive better than you." The audacity of it all served as a reminder to cherish his success and remain vigilant against those who thought they could simply take it away. In the end, Julian's story wasn't just about a car. It was about standing up for what was right, finding strength in adversity, and proving that even in the face of entitlement and chaos, perseverance could win out. And for Julian, that victory was sweeter than any ride in his beloved Porsche.